development strategy was released in 2019 for years 2020 through 2029. Granted, we've had some significant life changes since then, but we're still seeing the ramifications of being the oldest nation in the state. Oldest state in the nation, sorry. We're expected to see 65,000 retirements over this time period with an anticipated need of 75,000 people to join the workforce. Those numbers are massive. According to the data released in 2019, Maine has 100,000 workforce-aged individuals currently living here but not in the workforce. A major driving force of this is the barriers to employment. There's an estimated 6,000 individuals impacted by substance use disorder that are not actively in the workforce due to the barriers they face. We'll never be certain of the full impact substance use has on our workforce, as no one is immune to the impacts of it. But many of the barriers faced by our neighbors in recovery are overlap with barriers faced by our neighbors with justice involvement, our new neighbors, and all our neighbors really. My favorite portion of the entire strategy was the highlighting of Maine's connecting thread of working together toward a common goal as we acknowledge that the success of one aids in the success of all. There's a recognition that collaboration among the public, private, nonprofit, and education sectors to grow and diversify our economy, and that brings me a lot of joy as well. I'm all about collaboration. I'm such a realtor. Some of the ways identified in satisfying this number of 75,000 include increasing participation of our current residents in the workforce and by encouraging others to move to Maine, but this increase in participation can't happen until the barriers are addressed. We know these barriers exist, but what exactly are some of these barriers and how can we work together to overcome them? And a big thank you to those who've agreed to be on this panel this morning. We have Patricia Doty Emerson, who is our Down East Community Catalyst with Sunrise County Economic Council.
Starting today.
Day one on the piano.
Yeah, they're like, you're on the piano, like,
okay. We have Abby Frucci, who is the Substance Use Response Coordinator with the Caring Community Collaborative. And also with us is Brian Frucci, Regional Manager with RH Foster and Sunrise County Economic Council's Board Chair. And I am Amanda Smith, Coastal Opportunities Advisor with Sunrise County Economic Council and your facilitator, this panel's facilitator. This will be an open discussion type panel where we address the aforementioned barriers and how we can work together across the board from public to private to nonprofit sectors. And I cannot emphasize enough that the best way to address these very real, very persistent barriers is to address them together, utilizing each other's strengths and perspectives to offer creative real-world solutions. And I am going to ask that Brian share his story. He's got a very inspiring story and some real-world experience.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So Brian Frucci, Regional Manager of RH Foster. I like to stand up when I talk because my hands start going and stuff. So I'm recently board chair for the SCEC, which I'm honored to have the privilege to do that. So I'm also a person in long-term recovery. It was just over 14 years ago. 15 years ago, I was homeless, living on a park bench in Bar Harbor. In September 9th of 2009, I found sobriety through handcuffs and 2 felony charges. My wife does this on purpose, I swear. She gets me talking about this because the one thing that sticks out in my mind is wanting to be a father. And my little girl, she was 3 months old when I found sobriety. So I was talking to my friend in the back here running the computers about some of the changes that happened to us. And that was a change that happened to me that put me in a different direction. So at that point, I was arrested and charged with 2 felonies. My daughter was taken out of my life from her mother, and I wanted to be a father, so I was introduced to the Washington County Adult Drug Treatment Court. So this court is, it's a, how do we say it, a diversion program, sorry, it's a diversion program. What it did for me was it gave me a second chance. I was looking at 2 to 5 years in prison, and it gave me a second chance to be a father and be a human being, quite frankly. And so I did this program, and we were told to go to AA, so I did that. For the first time in a lot of years, well over a decade, I was actually doing what I was told to do. Like it was court ordered. So I was doing what I was told to do, and going to AA meetings and finding people like-minded that wanted to better themselves, and people that wanted to help me better myself. This summit here is about economic development and jobs, prosperity, and things like that. So for me, it was hard. I was trying to find a job. I was trying to do those things. And from a small community, I came from Machias. Everybody knew me and knew what I was about, the things that I was doing, and I was just a bad person. Like I really felt, and I appeared that to my community, and so it was hard. And one day I went to an employer and I said, you know, I'm looking for a job. It was a seasonal wreath making thing, and he looked at me and I said to him, I was like, I'm doing this drug court program, and you know, I have a criminal record and all these things, and he just said, so? And I was like, wait a minute, did you say so? Like, I literally had to ask him that again, and he's like, yeah. He's like, do you want to work? And I said, I do. I want to work, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And I worked hard. I worked, as a matter of fact, I worked 60 some odd days straight, like no days off, and I was happy to do it because I needed a job, and he saw that in me. This person was a person in recovery himself, and he helped me. He helped me to stay employed. He helped me to. I found full-time employment with him, and for the next 6 years, I was a full-time employee for this person. And I continued to do the drug court program, which was great. I got in, and exactly a year later, I graduated, and that was a huge accomplishment. My employer helped through all that. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with the things that we have to do when we're in recovery, when we're trying to find recovery. We have to go to meetings. We have to find outlets. We have to find better things than we were doing, and we have to find happiness and not feel like that person, that piece of shit that I felt like when I excuse my language, but that's how I felt. And so I found that with the help of employment. Like, that was my thing. Like, my goal was just to work and make money and provide for my daughter. So my daughter came back into my life, and then I had a son. He was in my life, and I continued to work and continued to do good things. 6 years into it, R.H. Foster, who I now work for, did the same thing. I had a criminal record, and I applied to be a manager at a convenience store. So I had burglary charges, and I applied to be a convenience store manager. And I had the same response from the owner of the company. He said, "Do you want to work?" And I said, "I do." And he saw me in the community working and doing good things, and I said, "I do. I want to work." And through a bit of a process, I became the store manager for a convenience store. So that was big for me. I went from 7 years prior to sleeping on a park bench to running and operating a convenience store. It was a big deal. I moved on to other work. One thing that I did is I became a recovery coach throughout my journey, and being a recovery coach was a great experience, and I really think that all employers should take that training, and just a plug for Penny, really. I know she's in that world, but it's really just a great program, and for me, it helped me like understand myself, but it also helped me to understand other people in recovery. Like, I did it this one way, but it wasn't the only way to do it. So I was able to go into the jails and help people that are incarcerated as a recovery coach, and help them find resources and kind of coach them on what to do when they got out into the world and find employment. So my story goes on, managing and leading teams. I left the convenience retail world. I went to work for the Bias Company as the chief operating officer. So it's a big landscape company. We range from down to Belfast to Bangor to Lincoln and kind of all around Eastern Maine. And I had the opportunity there to really make a difference and hire some people in recovery. And it was super fun. One guy in particular, I met him in jail. He didn't want to do the drug court program, and we talked it out, and he decided to do the drug court program. So he got out on the drug court program, and I was in a place in my career where I could hire him as somebody in recovery. And he said the same thing to me. He's like, I got to do this, and I was like, dude, you know I did that. Like, I've been there. Like, it's okay, let's do this. And so he did the drug court program. We worked it out, and it's not easy, guys. As an employer, you're asking, like, you know, what did that look like? And was it easy? It's not easy. You have to arrange some things. What I found out of that man was the hardest worker. Same thing I did. He worked every day. He did what was asked. 2 years into it for him, he became a project manager, and he still works as a project manager for the Bias Company. So you give people a chance, and you see him as a human being. That's what I want to be seen as a human being. And then I went on to this position that I'm at now, again, back to Arch Foster, in a different role, and even more of a leadership role with 100 or so employees in different areas, and I still have the opportunity to give people chances. And for me, I just have to step back and say, does this person fulfill the needs of the business? It's not me looking at this person saying, oh, you have a criminal record, or you're addicted to drugs and alcohol. It's, can they fulfill the needs of the job? And if that's a yes, then why wouldn't I give them a chance, right? They're a human being just like myself. That's what's important. So as an employer, there's risk, but oh my word, the reward can be just amazing if you try it and give it a chance. So hopefully that helped. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I spoke for a long time too. That's not.
No, it was great. It was great. As a tie-in to Brian's piece, I have been talking to employers in the area, and some of them have been, I don't want to say pushed, but they have gone to utilize the work release program with our local prison. And from the reports that I've heard from employers, they're some of the best employees that they could have. And they experience a lot of these barriers, and then barriers when they get out of incarceration as well. We're looking at folks that are here temporarily, that are filling necessary positions and making a good wage and being trained, or have the potential to make a good wage. But when their bid is up, they're having to relocate where their family is or where they came from. So then our companies are losing those employees, and there's the turnover and lack of consistency and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was, thank you. So I always love an opportunity when me and my husband get to sit together on a panel, and I get to hear your story again, because it truly paints the picture of so many that have experienced substance use disorder or justice involvement, and that are navigating the many barriers that come with that. And one of the things that we touched on before we sat down at the panel, like, we can talk about the barriers, but we know what those are. Let's talk about the solutions. And that's what I'm really excited about this group that I've had an opportunity, and others that are in the audience here, to really be part of. So as Amanda said, my name is Abby Frucci. I'm the Substance Use Response Coordinator of the Community Caring Collaborative. I have a long history in clinical substance use and recovery, and since I've been with the SCEC, I've been working specifically on programs and projects that integrate workforce and substance use and recovery. So it's really exciting to look at that work. For many years, I sat around tables where when we were talking about recovery, the only people at the table were behavioral health professionals or law enforcement, because it was either treat them or lock them up, right? Like that was the perspective. Now we look around the tables and we're seeing education, economic development, workforce, peer recovery supports, whole family supports. It's really a beautiful collaboration because we recognize, as Brian said, we're talking about a whole person and not just one challenge that they may have experienced in their life. And we'll touch on a project that we've been, an initiative that we've been working on collaboratively with CCC and SCEC in just a couple of minutes. But I would like to just kind of high level share a few things, and this touches on what Stephanie was talking about earlier. She talked about policy matters, and a few things that she touched on are really like how our interventions can be high level. We're talking federal, state, and then community interventions. Federally, there are over 14,000 laws in place across our country that prohibit individuals from employment opportunities that are involved in the criminal legal system. Interesting statistics, 1 in 3 people have some sort of interface with the criminal legal system. If we look around this room, I'm not asking anyone to raise their hands, but all I'll say is 1 in 3. And 1 in 5 people need some sort of occupational license to pursue, because we're not just talking about jobs, we're talking about living wage careers. We're talking about economic stability. When we have a strong economy, we create workforce opportunities. When we have a strong workforce, we strengthen our economy. The very reason why we're here talking about this conversation today. So when we think about those barriers to career pathways, those occupational licenses, Brian could spend time talking about that. We think about what are the solutions. Some of those are at the policy level, and some of the other interventions and solutions are at the very grassroots community level. It's about engaging with the person. It's about bringing people in for opportunity. We also know that employment plays a significant role in access to health care, to living wages that can create opportunities for stable housing, food security, all of the many things that were already touched on earlier today. So employment is not just about someone having a job, it is really about creating those opportunities to allow an individual to really flourish and thrive in their recovery and build family and community. All of those pieces tie into an initiative that we're so excited to welcome Dodie in her new role, but has played a significant role in through her previous work at the Maine Department of Labor Career Center, as well as RH Foster as an employer, and so in partnership with Sunrise County Economic Council, the Community Caring Collaborative is launching a recovery-friendly workplace network here specific to Washington County that has really focused on providing resources to employers that are in the work, that are doing it, that are supporting and creating a culture of wellness or expanding their culture of wellness in their workplace that may already target physical health and mental health, and really expand that to encompass recovery supports as well, maybe directly for the employee, maybe broadly for the community, maybe as a family member, an employee that may be a family member or affected other. So excited to share a little bit about that or answer questions around that. But we just recognize that employers are in the work. They've been doing it for a long time, meaning navigating, how do I support an individual that I want to bring on? Brian said it's not easy. There are things that I have to do as an employer. I had to learn a little bit more about what recovery means broadly. And I may have had to create some accommodations or communicate to my teams in a different way. So we know employers are in this work. They helped inform this network and this design, and we're eager to support them as they move forward with partnerships through education, Maine Department of Labor, our recovery support partners, in doing so. So excited to share a little bit about that, but eager to hear questions and have some conversations with people about that.
So again, my first day. I'm Dodie Emerson, and for the first half of my work in life, I've been at the Maine Department of Labor, Bureau of Employment Services, Career Center, mouthful kind of thing. But a lot of what I've done is workforce development, employer services, job seeker services, things like that. And through those years, I've been really blessed to be able to help people navigate through those challenges and barriers. And with a focus on substance use disorder, or I've done partnerships with drug court. We've gone in and done, what do you want to do? How can we get you there? The whole workshop series like that, that's so cool and fun. And it's amazing the resources and supports that are out there that people just don't know about. And employers as well, they may not know about the work opportunity tax credit, the federal bonding program, all those programs that are available to help offset any risk or challenge to hiring somebody who has that type of barrier. And a thing that I'm huge on, it falls right under the Recovery Friendly Network, Workplace Network that Abby so beautifully talked about. I was thinking, what am I going to say? But Brian actually hit it on the nose for me, and all the words just went away when he said, he told the employer, and they said, so? That's what I want the Recovery Friendly Workplace Network to be. Someone can walk in and they can disclose, and that employer says, so, let's figure it out. So I love that, and I've stolen it now, so it's mine.
Everybody does.
Yeah, I love that, I love it. But that is the goal, I think, of what we're working so hard to accomplish. And then a very new program that's come up through the Department of Labor is called Progressive Employment. And for those of you who may not have heard about that, it is a program that is working to help people with in recovery or reentry to get rid of those barriers and have support. So that program is going to tie in really well. And I point to Sarah because she's our new the MDOL. I'm still an hour. I'll get used to it, but I'll always be hour, I think. Sarah is the progressive employment person for Washington County, so I'm really excited that she's here today to learn more about our area. We're unique, we're special, and one of the biggest special things are the partnerships and the collaborations that we have. Not just employment, but workforce development, economic development, education, all that stuff really ties together. And I think I'm repeating a lot of what was said here, but it's all really important, so I'll stop now.
Thank you guys, you've done wonderful. Thank you for all that. Are there any questions?
We would love to have a dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all have our, except for Brian. Brian, you can stay.
Jane?
I'll start on. Abby, I'd like to hear a little bit more about and I can't remember what you called it, but for workforce-friendly places and working with employers and working with a group. See, I don't even know enough. I can't remember what you called it.
No, so the Recovery Friendly Workplace Network, RFW. Yeah, happy to share a bit about that. And we have some wrap cards because we have a website and we have a team that's been dedicated to this. Really, this is a collective network. And I'll say that Washington County, I just want to, again, really emphasize the responsive nature to this. So broadly, there's been a number of states that have launched statewide initiatives, and the state of Maine is launching a statewide initiative as well. One thing that we really hold dearly here in Washington County is ensuring that we're responsive to the needs of Washington County. And so this network design was built by employers, by individuals and job seekers in recovery. We listened to stakeholders, we went back to the drawing board, we changed things, we took things out. And so I really like to emphasize that this was built by you. We just helped create space to facilitate that. And this is a network in which employers can join and really access a plethora of resources and benefits, including an individual that can help guide them in recognizing what resources are available for their business, maybe tax credits, maybe referrals to progressive employment, maybe connection to the peer recovery center. Is also an opportunity for employers and their employees if they would like to engage in a number of different training opportunities and just really create a culture, again, we use that term, a culture of wellness in their workspace that encompasses recovery. So many employers have embraced physical wellness, right? Heart health. Make sure you have time every week to engage in physical health activities. During the pandemic, we've seen a significant increase in employers really recognize the impact of mental health and right, the wellness of needed around that. And we love to just highlight that recovery is a continuum of wellness. And so it doesn't have to be a scary thing. That's a standalone. It really is about just creating a space where if someone wants to share, they can, they don't need to, but just the employer creates kind of that culture of understanding. Maybe it's through their health insurance benefits. They make sure behavioral health is a component of that. Someone needs to take time off to access treatment or recovery supports for themselves or a loved one. Maybe the business supports a community initiative and they show up. Maybe the G-Day contributions go to a recovery home. There's a number of ways in which employers can be recovery friendly. There's no one way. So we had employers say to us, does this mean I need to hire all kinds of people that maybe, and so there's this fear sometimes when we talk about recovery that we may be thinking of a severe untreated substance use disorder, maybe someone who they actually need to access medical or behavioral health supports to get themselves to a place where employment is a benefit to them. So we're not telling any employers you need to hire. We're saying let us help you create a space in which you're not overlooking a candidate because of barrier that they may have experienced in their life. So we have a lot of information on it that we'd love to share with you. And
I'm just curious, so you've talked about, the successes and the great offerings, but, knowing the stats and what they showed us earlier about the actual conditions in Washington County and the number of people struggling with opioid or serious drug problems, I'm curious in regards to that factor and, in the recovery step, there's always that slip and getting back on and all of that. How does that affect the employers, or what resources help allow to, fall off but then get back on, and is it common that they would then lose that wonderful placement? Like, how does that, knowing that it's knowing that it happens, like, how does that work in this?
And I don't think there's any one single answer to that. What we'll say is that individuals that experience substance use disorder are at any stage in that journey, whether it's in recovery or in current use, that there are community members that are in the workforce. 68% of individuals with opioid use disorder are working. 72% of people with problematic alcohol use are working. And we know that through creating job opportunities that actually employers save $8,600 a year on turnover and retention and on-the-job injuries of when an employer is invested in supporting treatment and recovery versus not. So we know that. We also know that in recovery-friendly workplaces, when there's an investment in recovery, that the retention rates are lower. So there's lots of different, like we could look at the many benefits to employers supporting recovery in the workplace, just like any other chronic medical condition. Just like if you had an employee that needed to have accommodations or take time off because of a heart condition, a TIA, right, whatever it may be, are we creating those opportunities and offerings to an individual that's also navigating their recovery journey? When we don't think of it as a really scary thing and put it as a standalone, and we think of it as a continuum of so many other medical conditions, we start to normalize it in that sense of like, how do I respond to it? How would you respond to an employee that needed to take time off because they had another, challenge with a medical condition?
When I was looking more at the framework of the Washington County Recovery Network, I'm very fortunate that I believe SCEC has brought this framework into how they operate. And I have anxiety and depression that really have significantly impacted my life, and it brought me out of the workforce for a while. And learning more about this recovery work, I keep messing up the acronym. RFW. It really showed me, or not showed me, but resonated with me that it focuses on wellness, and it can be implemented. When it is implemented, it's going to impact people that aren't even the target audience, so to speak. If it wasn't for this framework, I would still be out of the workforce, and because it gives me that flexibility to be a human in that, not respect, but the acknowledgement that we are all human, and things happen, and the flexibility needs to be there, so we're all successful that way.
So, just a real life story, the person that I was talking about with the project manager, just to go back to your, he gave to share this, but he relapsed. It was very visible, and the owners of the company were very aware. But having me, having somebody, they talked about it enough and educated people about it enough. It wasn't a, you're fired, it was a, what can we do to help you? And this is from people that didn't have, I mean, one's a lifetime law enforcement officer, and he was just like, what can I do to help you? And he's still working as a project manager, but it's, I think one thing about this is it'll help educate employers. It's not what can I do in that situation, it's just, how can I help in that situation? Or if I see today that, I know, because I've been in it, I know what it looks like, I know what alcoholism looks like, or drug addiction looks like, but I don't say, hey, are you struggling with addiction today? I'm like, hey, look like you're feeling that good, are you okay? Like, and showing empathy for the person's situation. So,
That empathy can go a long way too.
it can, and I don't do it right every time, but it's not easy to get to that point, because as an employer, you're like, well, I have a job to do, and I have a customer to do it for, but without these employees, I don't have anybody that can service it anyway. So you really gotta find that find that balance. But in the end, just know, like, if for me the job, not having a job was a barrier, and if I didn't get a job, I would be in prison today. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that I would be in prison today, because I would have gave up, because I have been given up on a lot, and I wouldn't be a father today. So, yeah.
Prison or worse.
Yeah, or worse. I imagine I'd be dead, I'm sure at this point.
We've got about 5 minutes left if anybody has any additional questions.
I love this, all of it, and this, Abby, we've been in conversation about recovery from the workplace for a while, and this has really helped me sort of understand it a little better, so I'm really grateful. And I love the sort of fold in recovery into all the wellness efforts, totally makes sense. It will also be a focus on helping employers figure out solutions to recovery commitments, to transportation, right? That's like the big T word in all the work we do. To criminal charges and licensing, like, is that part of the agenda?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Like the role of the community catalyst and which is related, kind of like AKA recovery friendly advisors. We recognize there'll be many of us advising, is to help employers and job seekers overcome these barriers. The many, whether it's, we recognize not all industries can be flexible with scheduling. And so it is about some matchmaking too. We don't want to put someone in shift work that has a rigorous treatment and recovery core program, right? Like, it's how do we make those fit so it's a win-win for job seekers and employers? And we're not putting anyone in a position in which they'll say, I'll never do that again, or I really stuck my neck out and that didn't work. Or the employee says, how am I supposed to make this work?
Right.
We really want to create those matchmaking opportunities, and this is where the Recovery Friendly Workplace Network is part of a county-wide response to the substance use challenges that we've been housing. Safe Harbor has met the need of that, right? We have many that are in conversations or looking at opportunities for transportation initiatives. Childcare. I'm teaching a class starting in a couple weeks for professionals working with justice-involved job seekers to talk about how do you understand and navigate some of those challenges around criminal record, those occupational licensing questions. I don't want to send someone to school who can't get a license for 10 years. Like, I'm just setting someone up. How do I know that? So that course is launching through Washington County Community College in a couple of weeks. I'm excited to offer that. So it is one of many connected initiatives that are part of kind of a county-wide response.
I kind of think about it as a support for the employers who are supporting the job seekers. So I'm thinking part of my role is going to be a big part of that, is helping to offer support to employers and find resources and connections and all of that fun stuff that I love to do. And I'm not afraid to pick up the phone, so.
So as everyone kind of transitions to lunch, wherever that may be, I would encourage you to grab one of these. You can scan the QR code. I will say we're so excited to be moving forward with some new kind of branding and website design. This has been part of our branding during our design phase. But this will get you some information that you need and how to connect with me or Denise. You have to say hello too because you've been leading this work. Denise Silly, Associate Director. Yeah, just great stuff. Has been leading this work for the last 2 years. Along for the ride. So please grab one of these, and we welcome any questions afterwards as well.
So many great things happening.
Yay.